ओम गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं मवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पद आनुशृण्वोति विश्वेदसादनम्। ओम महागणाधिपतये नमः। ओम केशवाय नमः। ओम नारायणाय नमः। ओम माधवाय नमः। ओम गोविंदाय नमः। ओम विष्णुवे नमः। मत्सूदनाय नमः। त्रिविक्रमाय नमः। वामनाय नमः। श्रीधराय नमः। ऋषिकेशाय नमः। पद्मनाभाय नमः। दामोदराय नमः। संकर्षणाय नमः। वासुदेवाय नमः। प्रद्युम्नाय नमः। निरुद्धाय नमः। पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। दोक्षाय नमः। नारसिंहाय नमः। अच्युताय नमः। जनार्दनाय नमः। उपेन्द्राय नमः। हरे नमः। श्रीकृष्णाय नमः। श्रीकृष्णाय नमः। श्रीकृष्णाय नमः। ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे। 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 ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे. Suta Maharshi continued his pravachana to Shaunaka Maharshi and other Maharshis in Naimisharanya. In the situation, there were a number of queries raised by King Janamejaya when he was Maharshi Vedavyasa was explaining the same Devi Purana to Janamejaya, and King Janamejaya started questions about karma and what are the karmas, how it is playing. Maharshi Vedavyasa explained the role of karma or fate playing vital significance in the life of the human beings. There are invisible links of one's life to the previous births and the actions of present life to the future consequences, and the cycle of lives goes on. Unless there is a possible break in the vicious circle in a highly unlikely situation of a zero account. The concept of Sanchita karma is accumulated karma. Whatever we are doing wrong things now, that becomes a bad karma, it accumulates. Prarabdha karma is also accumulating in after that. And Bhavishya, forthcoming, total of karma viewed from this perspective. So Sanchita is the past one which is already accumulated. Prarabdha is the one which is accumulating in the present life. And Bhavishya, forthcoming karma, total of karma viewed from this perspective. The very many questions raised by the king Janamejaya, such as why Lord Krishna's father Vasudeva and mother Devaki were kept in prison for no fault of theirs, why Krishna had two mothers, Devaki and Yashoda, why Devaki had to deliver 6 infant boys in a succession just to be killed by Kamsa till the 7th and 8th were spared. Why did the righteous Pandavas struggle in life and faced several ugly situations, especially when their share of kingdom was given, moved on to the Indraprastha and performed Rajasuya Yajna? Maharshi Vedavyasa provided replies on several queries of King Janamejaya as linked with Sanchita Karma as an illustration. That means the Sanchita Karma is the karma what we done in the past. As an illustration, he narrated the incident of birth of the 7 infants before the 8th issue of Lord Krishna and why Aditi was born as Devaki in the next birth. The two daughters of Prajapati Daksha, Aditi and Diti, were wedded to sage Kashyapa. Indra, the king of Devas, was born to Aditi. All Devatas are born to Aditi. And Diti too desired to give birth to a son as powerful as Indra. Kashyapa advised Diti to perform a religious ritual with great piety and purity. As Diti too was conceived and the boy was nearing the delivery, Aditi got perturbed with envy. She asked her son Indra to somehow terminate the delivery. As Diti too was conceived and the boy was nearing the delivery, Aditi got perturbed with envy. As she asked her son Indra to somehow terminate the the pregnancy. So Aditi is the mother of Indra, Devasa's mother. Diti is the mother of the Daityas. Indra pretended affection to Diti, and when she fell fast asleep, entered by his mystic power the pregnant area in the uterus, Garbhakosha, and used his thunderbolt Vajra weapon by splitting her womb, splitting her the pregnancy, the baby, into 7 parts, which were cut into 7 further parts, totaling 49 parts. These 49 parts were delivered and became 47. These 49 babies came in the end. Instead of killing one baby, Indra created by dividing the embryo into 49 poses. These 49 parts were Indra took them away to heaven and gave them a title as Ashwini Kumaras, the powerful and virtuous Devas. He made them Devas. The 7 parts of the fetus were born as Devaki's infant boys. The 7 parts of the fetus were born as Devaki's infant boys, 6 of them having been killed by Kamsa as soon as they born, and 7th one flew away in the process of killing as Yogamaya. Of course, the 8th child was carried to Gokula, that is Krishna, as that Nanda and Yashoda looked after him, and thus emerged the Krishna avatar. Diti learned how the enemy of Aditi was responsible for the miscarriage and cursed Aditi that she too be punished as Devaki in her next birth. Experiencing the pangs of the losing 7 infants in a row, another illustration given by Vedavyasa about the impact of karma was related to the several miseries faced by Pandavas. Particularly after their conduct of Rajasuya Yajna, the explanation was that the function was performed more out of arrogance and bravery rather than for religious reasons. Similarly, highly virtuous persons like Bhishma, Drona, and Dharmaraja had undergone many embarrassing situations, again as a clear examples of Sanchita karma. Aditi, born as Devaki, next life, and Diti, because Aditi made Indra to go and kill the embryo in the uterus of Diti. That Diti came to know that, so she cursed her. She cursed her sister Aditi, and that's why Aditi has to be punished in her next birth as Devaki, experiencing losing 7 infants in a row. This is Sanchita karma of Aditi as Devaki. In the next life, she lost 7 babies one after the other. Vedavyasa about the impact of karma was related to the several miseries faced by Pandavas, particularly after their conduct of Rajasuya Yajna. In the Rajasuya Yajna, Vedavyasa thinks the Rajasuya Yajna was conducted in a Rajasika fashion, as a king, was performed more out of arrogance and bravery rather than for religious reasons. Similarly, highly virtuous persons like Bhishma, Drona, and Dharmaraja had to undergo many embarrassing situations, again as a clear example of Sanchita karma. And the episode of Nara and Narayana, Urvasi and Prahalada comes after that. Sutta Puranika is explaining the same episode of Narayana to Shaunaka Maharshi and other rishis in Naimisharanya. Mahamuni Dharma was born from Lord Brahma's heart and was wedded to Prajapati Daksha's 10 daughters. He had 4 sons, Hari, Krishna, Nara and Narayana. The former 2 were practitioners of high system of yoga, and Nara Narayana were always engaged in religious tapas. When Nara and Nara were performing rigorous meditation at Gandhamadana Parvat for over 1000 years, Indra got alarmed at the safety of his throne. He thought Naranarayana would acquire his Indra Padavi and dispatch celestial dancers like Ramba, Tilottama, Menaka, totaling 16,000, and also requested Manmada and Rati Devi to help divert the attention of the sages in tapas. All the approaches made by heavenly apsaras fell flat, as these sages were far above the aspects of lust and anger. With a smile, the sage brothers Nara and Narayana created one outstandingly beautiful woman from their thighs and hence named Urvashi. The Munis said that since there were so many dancers who came from the heavens to visit the place, they thought it fit to create at least one hostess to look after them. The Apsaras were put to shame, as their intention was different, and fell on the feet of the sages, Naranarayana. They were all grateful that despite the deep provocation that the Munis, Naranarayana, had faced, they did not curse the Apsaras. Instead, the Munis asked to take away Urvashi also and leave them in peace to continue their tapasya. But the Apsaras desired to stay at the most alluring surroundings of the mountain and begged of Narayana to marry them, as they were all got mesmerized and infatuated with them. On their collective insistence, sage Narayana agreed that in his next avatar as Lord Krishna, he would marry them all, and with that assurance, they returned back to Indraloka. As the Apsaras left, the sages Naranarayana did not get angry with the disturbance caused by the presence of so many dancers and spoiled their tapasya, as anger and ahankara ego would indeed be worse than lust, and thus reverted back to their tapasya as quickly as possible. In fact, the sages felt that a position like that happened earlier when they were overcome by the instinct of ahankara, and their meditation was badly affected when there was a fight with Prahalada, and that they would never like to repeat a situation like that. Vedavyasa Maharshi explained to King Janamejaya that illustrious sages like Naranarayana, or even the ever memorable devotee of Lord Vishnu like Prahalada, who was responsible for the slaughter of Hiranyakashipu by Lord Vishnu's incarnation as Narasimhavatara, were not exceptions to Ahankara, let alone ordinary human beings. The son of Bhrigu Maharshi, Chavana, the son of Bhrigu Maharshi, Chavana Muni, was bathing in Narmada river at a Punya Kshetra, a holy place named Varahiteshwara. A frightful snake pulled the Muni and dragged him down to Patala. The Muni felt that his last hours of life were counted, as the snake would surely give him a poisonous bite any time, and prayed to Lord Vishnu, most sincerely wondering how awful was fate that after a highly ascetic life he had to have an end like this. But the poison proved ineffective, as his prayers were responded to. In Patala, the snake felt apologetic for its action and revered the Muni for his powers. Others nearby too respected the sage, and the word went round till the king of Patala, Prahalada, called him and realized that Chavanamuni too was a close devotee of Lord Vishnu. During the conversation with the sage, Prahalada realized how enlightened the Muni was, and inquired which were the best pilgrimage places on earth for visits. The Chavanamuri replied that if there were no pollution in one's own mind, every place would be a pilgrimage center. And if the mind was full of vice, avarice, and violence, no pilgrimage was worth it. In any case, Chavanamuni recommended Prahlada's visit to Naimisharanya and the nearby Chakratirtha and Pushkaratirtha and so on. Prahlada was excited and visited Naimisharanya and noted that there were several sages engaged in their own tapasyas, but suddenly he saw a sight of two munis with knotted hair keeping before them two sets of bows and arrows. Sarangam and Ajwangam, Pinaka, belonging to Lords Vishnu and Shiva. The sages were indeed Nara and Narayana. Prahlada was furious to see the sight of the sages keeping bows and arrows before them and at the same time engaged in deep meditation. He felt that both bravery and meditation could never be side by side, and neither of these qualities was denied. He reprimanded and badly criticized the sages, who asked the king to mind his business and leave them alone. He reprimanded and badly criticized the sages, but the sages asked the king to mind his business and leave them alone. Then arguments followed by the king and the ascetics, and the king gradually became louder and quarrelsome. The spirit of Ahankara overcame both sides and snowballed into the full-fledged battle. The entire universe got reverberated with the exchange of fiery arrows from Naranarayana on the one hand and Prahlada and the entire army of Asuras on the other for several years. It became apparent over the time that the two sages were indeed invincible and Prahlada was almost overcome. He remembered Mahavishnu who appeared before the devotee. Bhagavan Vishnu declared to Prahlada that the great sages Nara and Narayana were of his own Amsha. Realizing his grave blunder, Prahlada fell on the feet of the sages and prayed to them that Ahankara blinded him and Maya overpowered his emotions, for which he was ashamed and guilty, and he requested he apologized with them. Now, another episode, in the next episode, sage Bhrigu Maharshi curses Mahavishnu. There were ongoing battles between Devatas and Rakshasas. But the most potent war fought was that of Bali Chakravarti, with Devas, Indra, and other people, in which Danavas had the upper hand. But Lord Vishnu took the incarnation of Vamana Avatara and tricked Bali by asking for just 3 feet of land and occupied the entire universe and suppressed Bali's head to the subterranean world as the third foot in the Patalaloka. Similarly, Prahlada's father Hiranyakashipu was killed, taking the form of a half lion and half man to escape the effect of Brahma's boon. Thus, each time Danavas got boons from Brahma, Lord Vishnu tried to search for the escape clauses of the boons secured and after rigorous tapasya and appeared as the savior of Devas always. Thus, brooding Shukracharya, the son of sage Bhrigu, and Urjaswati consoled Danavas and assured that some other strategy would have to be followed to achieve victory over Devatas. Thus, Danavaguru Shukracharya asked for patience and restraint and meanwhile practiced a life of austerity and abstinence till he found a solution to the problem from tapasya. The Acharya then meditated Lord Shiva for several years together and finally pleaded him for a boon. He explained that the various tapasyas performed by Danava kings in the past to Brahma and the boons obtained from him proved futile since they had only temporary impact, and each time Lord Vishnu was discovering loopholes in the boons received. That was the reason why Lord Shiva was approached for a solution as a boon, the kind of which should not have been granted to his opponent Brihaspati, the Devaguru. Lord Shiva in turn gave a very arduous method to follow, namely to perform penance for 1,000 years, lying upside down, inhaling smoke from burnt husk. Meanwhile, Devaguru disguised himself as Shukracharya and gradually misguided Danavas and taught them a licentious and wicked life quite contrary to what Shukracharya advised before his departure for tapasya. The Danavas were provoked by the fake Danamaguru, went on war against Devas, who killed several demons as they later were disunited, indisciplined, and weak. Shukracharya's mother, Kavya, found that Devas were drawing too near to Danavas and protected them by putting Devas to deep sleep by requesting the goddess of Nidra Devi slumber. Indra escaped the sleep as Lord Vishnu absorbed him into the goddess into his body. He also used Sudarshana Chakra wheel and cut off Kavya's head, even ignoring that she was a woman, that too the wife of sage Bhrigu. The sage was furious on learning that Vishnu's chakra cut Kavya's head and gave him a curse that Vishnu would be born again and again as a human being, since he never cared for killing the woman, and hence be punished by learning the misery of staying imprisoned for 9 months each time before the birth. Also, by his mystic powers, the sage revived his wife to come alive. Indra was afraid that Bhrigu cursed Narayana, and soon original Vishwamitra would also return after securing the much desired mantra from Lord Shiva. So Indra made a plan and asked his daughter Jayanti to disguise herself as a maid and reach Vishwamitra's hermitage and please his mother Kavya to start with and please the sage in his duties subsequently, which she did exceedingly well. Sorry, this is not Vishwamitra, this is Shukracharya. And with and pleased the sage Shukracharya in his duties subsequently, which he did exceedingly well. Meanwhile, Shukracharya secured a great boon from Lord Shiva that he would be invincible to any force in the universe. Lord Shiva blessed the sage with the mantra. Also, he was pleased with the services of Jayanti and desired to give boons to her. She revealed her identity as Indra's daughter. Having fulfilled his mission, the fake Shukracharya or Brihaspati returned to Indraloka. Danavas felt cheated and desired to convey their sincere apologies and thus approached Shukracharya with the king Prahlada in the lead. The sage was furious as he felt insulted, while actually he took the trouble of severe tapasya only for the welfare of the entire Danava community, whereas they let him down badly by believing in Brihaspati in disguise. King Prahlada pleaded with the sage very earnestly, and all the Danavas prostrated before the Guru to excuse them for their lack of gratitude and common sense. Shukracharya understood from his intuition that the regrets expressed by Prahlada and Danavas were genuine. He then narrated that Lord Brahma assured him of the king of Danavas coming to power soon, and for the time being, Danavas would have to lie low and await excellent times till Prahlada's grandson would be born as Bali Chakravarti and reign the three worlds. What the Dhanavaguru told Prahlada was so encouraging that he did not wait for more time and attacked the Devas. Devas lost the war. Indra was surprised at the defeat of Devas. He prayed to Devi Bhagavati at the instance of Devaguru Brihaspati. He extolled the unparalleled glory of Devi as per Shakti Darshana and described her as the tattvas rooted to the material manifestation of Panchabhutas or five elements. The tattvas include Mahabindu, Nadi Shakti, and Mishrama Bindu. She dwelt in 5 sheets, koshas, Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, and Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandamaya kosha. She was the Veda Shastras. She was the Vedas, Shastras, Upanishads, and mantras, tantras, and multi-roted final destination, and so on. Devi Bhagavati was pleased and made her extraordinary appearance in full form, packed with armory and ornaments. Out of sheer panic, Danavas, led by King Prahlada, fled away to Patala forthwith. Thus ended the unwarranted war declared by Danavas against Devatas, who had other important duties to perform. Thus, the Devi's appearance was warning to both Devas and Danavas that they should not waste mutual energies in frequent bickerings. Thus, there was a truce ending in the war. Links to previous births of personalities during Vishnu avatars. King Janamejaya inquired Maharshi Vedavyasa about the incarnation of Lord Vishnu and the connected links of persons figuring in the respective avatars. While in the Chukshushu Chukshushu Manvantara of Kritayaga, the incarnation of Vishnu was of Dharma and the sons were Naranarayana. The Vaivasvata Manvantara of the same Yuga witnessed the incarnation of Dattatreya, the son of sage Atri and Anasuya. The Trinity were born to Anasuya as Soma from Brahma, Dattatreya from Vishnu, and Durvasa from Ishvara. In the last phase of Krita was born Narasimha, destroyed Hiranyakashipu, saved Prahlada, and re-established Dharma. As in the case of Hiranyaksha, when Lord Vishnu took the incarnation of a boar, Vaman, or the links were clear in that Sanaka brothers, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanat Kumar, gave a curse to Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha, the abode of Lord Vishnu, and that they be born as cruel as kings in 3 successive births as Hiranya brothers, as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. First Hiranya brothers, second Ravana Kumbhakarna, and third as Shishupala Dantavakra in Dwapara Yuga. In Treta Yuga, Lord Vishnu incarnations were of Vamana to curb the power of the King Bali, as Parashurama, the destroyer of the earring of the arrogant Kshatriyas, and Rama as Maryada Purushottama, ideal and virtuous predicam of human being. In Dwapara Yuga, the incarnations were repeats of Narayana and Nara as Krishna and Arjuna. After, after sage Bhrigu's curse, Lord Vishnu's avatars were indeed born and as humans to go through the trials of pregnancy and delivery, whereas the earlier avatars of Matsya, Kurma, and Narasimha were Swayambhus. Besides Lord Vishnu, several players enacting the dramas related to avatars too had links with their previous births according to their own Sanchita or Prarabdha karma. With special reference to Krishna Avatara, King Janamejaya explained that he had already got the answer in the previous pages as to how Lord Krishna had 16,008 wives, of whom 8 were accounted as Rukmini, Satyabhama, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, Satya, and Bhadra, apart from the rest who were the Apsaras who were sent to Naranarayana, sages by Indra. But he had a barrage of other questions which deluded answers for him. Why were Vasudeva and Devaki chosen as the parents of Krishna and Balarama? Why were the 6 infants killed as soon as they gave birth to? Why were Krishna and Balarama grown at Gokula, and how did Balarama get transferred to Yashoda's pregnancy from that of Devaki? Why did Krishna shift to Dwaraka overnight from Mathura if it were not to out of fear of Jarasandha? And how could the residents of Mathura were convinced Why were the good Pandavas subjected by fate to untold miseries, especially by Draupadi? How was it that Draupadi was the wife of 5 brothers, which was considered as incest in any civilized society? Why did Maharshi Vedavyasa agree to a procedure of begetting children to 2 widows and Dasi simply because Bhishma took a vow not to marry and become a king again? How come an intelligent king like Dharmaraja yielded to the temptation of playing a friendly game of the chess or dice, being fully conscious and the implication of losing it at a ridiculously high stake of Aranyavasa for 12 years and a year long Ajnatavasa? That too by involving his wife and brothers. Why did the highly virtuous and brave persons like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and Drupada, and so on fail to control the evil forces and save the great battle? How was it that Ashwatthama, a great warrior and a son of Drona Acharya, himself restored to the meanest act of killing the 5 sons of Pandavas while in the sleep? And why did the great Munis curse the entire Yadu Vamsha for a casual prank played by Yadu boys for displaying a boy as a pregnant woman, knowing fully well that Lord Krishna and Balarama too belong to the same Vamsha, and so on? The spate of doubts expressed by King Janamejaya as above could be dealt with by convincing explanations in the pages ahead, keeping in view of the colossal role played by Mahamaya, the grand illusion of Maya, Mad Devi Bhagavatham. Om Om Haim Rim Klim Chamundaya Viche Om Haim Rim Klim Chamundaya Viche Om Haim Rim Klim Chamundaya Viche नमोस्तनंताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षरपाद सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषार्थे सहस्रकोटि उदाहरणे नमः सहस्रकोटि उदाहरणे नमः आकाशात् परितम्यतागृसागरं सर्वदि नमस्कारः श्रीकेशं परिगत्यो नमः सर्ववेदेशत्पण्डं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं पुण्यवाप्त्वा पुरुषमाप्नोति वासुदेव वासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते जगत्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासुदेव समर्थे कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणाय समर्पयामि ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विद्महे ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विद्महे ओम ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विद्महे हरि ओम।